Norman Reedus. Funky Fetus. Hello. We got a new trailer for Death Stranding this week. In fact, we actually got a release date trailer for Death Stranding this week on a Wednesday because Sony hates E3 now, so therefore they're just dropping release date trailers for arguably one of their biggest titles for the PS4 just on a Wednesday. That's just what we get now. Just a random Wednesday. You're at work, you're eating your tuna sandwiches for lunch, and just there's your release date for Death Stranding. It's just that's Sony in 2019, I suppose. Anyway, the trailer was batshit insane, and I enjoyed it a lot. And I thought, you know what, I want to talk about it. I want to come onto my YouTube channel, which is my YouTube channel, and I want to speak to all of you fine folk about Death Stranding. So here we are. This is some loose thoughts about Death Stranding. Here we go. So the trailer is very good. We had Mad singing to us, which was See the sunset, the day is ending. Oh, that was really nice. And we also got, like, a lot of stuff in this trailer that felt like actual gameplay footage. I felt like before, every other trailer for Death Stranding just felt like, I don't know, mood boards for what Kojima Productions want to create. It just felt like nice proof of concept videos for what they wanted to achieve. But this actually felt like the real trailer for a real video game that we'll be able to play. And we will, in November. So it's nice to actually see a little bit of UI, a little bit of gameplay. So as we already knew from previous trailers, you play as PT's own Norman Reedus, wandering around a post-apocalyptic United States delivering parcels to different cities which are stranded from one another due to supernatural forces known only as BT or beached thins, as I think they're called. I'm not really too sure if that's the official term. I got that off the wiki page. It looks like the environments are filled with different types of danger, such as the BTs themselves who want to attack you, these mysterious fellas who rot up in their little yellow suits and look like those people from Monsters Inc. They want to batter you, and also just the environment itself is tricky to get around. You got some vehicles, you got your little motorbike, and also you can use your extendable ladder, which you keep in a backpack, to get up to hills and travel over canyons and stuff in a way that looks a lot like Breath of the Wild, which is a comparison that you should be aiming for, I think. I think this game looks like it has a lot of mechanical similarities to Nintendo's standout Switch launch title. So that's good. I feel like gameplay looks really interesting. I feel like exploring this world is going to be a fascinating experience, and literally if this game is just a package delivery simulator with mad as shit Kojima production cutscenes interspersed between those sections, I mean, this looks like it's going to be the game of the generation, and I know that sounds ridiculous, but I really like the games that Kojima Productions made. It looks a lot like main character Sam has an eclectic mix of tools and abilities at his disposal, meaning that you can traverse these environments in lots of different ways. You can use a ladder, you can abseil down cliff edges, and also combat. Looks like there's lots of little things you can do. You can use stealth, you can attack people with your briefcase, you can do that little move where he like fools them and runs backwards, which I really liked. And it reminded me so much of Metal Gear Solid 5, which obviously was the last game that Kojima Productions worked on when they were still at Konami. And from these early gameplay sections, I actually feel like Death Stranding shares a lot of its DNA with Metal Gear Solid 5. It looks like Kojima Productions have carried over a lot of the lessons that they learned from that game, in the sense that they're giving players another open world environment, they're giving them a small handful of very refined abilities to use, and then effectively letting them loose and saying, you can do whatever you want to do here, go for it, see what happens, approach it any way you want to. And I think that's fantastic. I feel like that's exactly the kind of game that I wanted to see from Kojima Productions then, because I still think that Metal Gear Solid 5 has the most meticulous and deliberate gameplay I've ever played. It's just so perfectly executed. It feels like you are fully in control at all times, and every single mechanic in that game interlocked with one another to create an emergent experience that just was beautiful. I still think that Metal Gear Solid 5 is a masterclass in game design, to be completely honest with you. And of course, infamously, Metal Gear Solid 5 was never finished. It was rushed out the door and was the last game that Kojima and his team ever worked on for Konami before they let them go. So I don't know, I just feel like the similarities between that game and Death Stranding, you know, they're probably intentional. I feel like this probably has a lot of ideas and a lot of what that team learned from that experience applied here as well, which is really good because, like I say, that game is amazing, and the thought of having that level of functional control over the protagonist in this new context is really exciting. No doubt we'll see a little bit more as November gets a little closer, but yeah, from what we're seeing here, it looks like it has a lot of similarities to its spiritual predecessor, and as a result of that, I am even more excited than I was before. I feel like in this trailer we might have had our first glimpse at the multiplayer component of the game as well. This is the multiplayer that Kojima and Sony have been alluding to for quite some time now, but have yet to reveal anything concrete about what it might look like. On the game's official website, it describes the multiplayer as help other travelers without ever crossing paths, send supplies, share safe houses, and walk in the footsteps of fellow couriers to reunite civilization. Now, this sounds a lot like the asynchronous multiplayer that we find in games like Dark Souls and Bloodborne. This concept of multiplayer where you can leave messages for each other and you can see phantoms of other players. When this trailer was released, Kojima took to Twitter and said that as Sam Porter bridges, you will attempt to bridge these divisions and in doing so create new bonds or strands with other players around the globe. So again, there's this concept that you have tangential influence over other people's worlds, but you're not going to be, jumping into a lobby and playing co-op with a friend. And I feel like this asynchronous idea that you might just see the echoes of other players and that you might be slightly influenced by the decisions that other people make, that feels consistent with the rest of the tone and the narrative of the game, right? This concept of, entities that live within other dimensions that can affect our real world, and you're connecting other people within the game world, so why couldn't you be connecting other people within, other game worlds as well? I think that sounds really nice. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I'm really interested to see how Kojima and his team uses that concept within this game, because Kojima has infamously toyed with the concept of what a video game actually is, and he's always enjoyed playing with his players as well. Let's not forget, Saito Mantis reading your memory card on the original Metal Gear Solid.
You like Castlevania, don't you? I see that you enjoy Konami games.
Or how he basically announced Metal Gear Solid 5 as a completely different game called The Phantom Pain for what, shits and diddles? Who knows? He loves doing this. That's what he likes doing, and I feel like there's probably going to be a very playful, interesting, maybe even a social commentary aspect to this asynchronous multiplayer, and that's exactly what I want to see from this as well. I think it's going to enhance the core themes of the game to have this asynchronous, tangential multiplayer experience running alongside the main storyline. So yeah, I feel like in this trailer when we saw the footsteps, which might represent the footsteps of other players, as the website alludes to, or this bit where Sam's running through the grass and we kind of see this outline of another courier leaving behind a beacon. Perhaps that's a warning, perhaps that's just like the gameplay element we haven't explored just yet. I think it's going to be really cool. I think it's going to be such a core part of the game, and I'm really excited to see how it's implemented. Interestingly, Kojima has spoken a lot about the concept of the stick and the rope, a concept he attributes from a short story titled The Rope by Tobo Abe. In the story, it basically says that the rope and the stick are some of the oldest instruments of man. The stick was the first instrument ever invented, and it was used to fight away enemies and to hurt other people, whereas the rope was the second to ever be invented, and this was used to bind things together and to bring them together in a less violent way, basically. And I feel like Kojima thinks that most games these days give players a stick and they ask them to attack other people, and I feel like within Death Stranding, Kojima wants to bring forth this concept of the rope to the forefront. And this isn't necessarily different to what he's always done. The majority of games that Kojima has worked on, the Metal Gear Solid series especially, has primarily been about avoiding conflict, and I know that doesn't really hold up massively because there's boss fights in Metal Gear Solid, right? But you can beat all of his games non-violently, and I do wonder how much of Death Stranding is going to end up being a meta-commentary on video games as a whole. And again, this isn't the first time Kojima has ever done this before. Metal Gear Solid 2 is a meta-commentary about sequels. That's why he never revealed that you didn't play as Solid Snake until you physically bought the game and put it into your PlayStation 2. He literally tricked all of his fans into thinking he was making a straight sequel to their favourite PS1 game, whereas realistically, he was purposefully subverting everyone's expectations to make a comment on the relationship between the player and the creator, as well as the very concept of a video game sequel in of itself, which is effectively why in that game you replay the events of the first game, just in a slightly different way. And then obviously it ends with that prophetic discussion on the future of technology and the internet's influence on politics, which is a bit close to home.
The untested truths, spun by different interests, continue to churn and accumulate in the sandbox of political correctness and value systems.
Everyone withdraws into their own small gated community, afraid of a larger forum. They stay inside their little ponds, leaking whatever truth suits them into the growing cesspool of society at large.
The different cardinal truths neither clash nor mesh. No one is invalidated, but nobody is right.
Not even natural selection can take place here. The world is being engulfed in truth.
And this is the way the world ends, not with a bang, but a whimper.
Let's maybe not dwell too much on that. It's fascinating, and actually I hope that Death Stranding takes a lot of influence from Metal Gear Solid 2. I think that Death Stranding has the potential to tell a meta-narrative as interesting as that game. And, you know, Kojima, I think, likes to talk a lot about video games and his experience as a creator and his relationship with his fans in his games. You only need to look at Metal Gear Solid 4 to see a lot of subtext about how you finish off a series and how you say goodbye to a beloved character. So I actually do feel like Death Stranding might be as much a commentary on the Metal Gear Solid series, or Kojima and his team's relationship with video games and with producers and corporations, and I'm not sure. I'm speaking completely hypothetically here, but knowing Kojima and playing all of his games over the years, I really wouldn't be surprised if there's a lot in here that is about his own experiences and what his team went through at Konami, maybe, or even just on a more abstract level of their relationship with video games in general. But yeah, I'm excited. I think that is the thing that I'm most looking forward to with this game, is all of the meta-narrative surrounding it. And you know, there's still a chance, knowing Kojima, that this is just Metal Gear Solid 6, and he's played us like a damn fiddle! Because he likes doing that. He really likes doing that. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the narrative, because this trailer introduced us to a few new concepts. We now know that the babies are called bridge babies, which is hilarious to me. We know that the other dimension that Sam can travel to is known as Hades, and that it's inhabited by these, like, echoes of war, which kind of implies that Hades is just a world where all of the echoes of pain and suffering is condensed down, which is why we've seen like so much of war in that realm and why there's so much death and destruction. Again, that could be a meta-narrative about characters that die in video games. I'm not sure. It could be like the reflection on this concept that video games are just hyper-violent and self-contained, and maybe that's what Hades represents. The alternate realm actually reminds me a little bit of the Sorrow boss fight from Metal Gear Solid 3, and that boss fight, if you haven't played Metal Gear Solid 3, is wholly unique in that you don't necessarily fight the Sorrow himself. Instead, you have to confront all of the lives you've taken up to that point. So you have to walk up this stream that's inhabited by wailing, ghostly representations of all the people you've killed. And there's something about Hades that just reminds me of that section so much, and I do wonder if there's going to be similar themes and similar ideas going on there. In the actual world, we've seen a little bit more about Bridges, which is the company that Sam works for. It's not, you know, it's quite an on-the-nose name, Kojima. You do like doing that, don't you? But, you know, whatever. It's fine. It also seems like the safe houses that Sam travels between, which are owned by Bridges, are also going to be inhabited by other players, so that's really interesting. Obviously, the babies are going to play a huge role in this. Whether or not the babies represent Sam or innocence, youth, I'm not sure. But the fact that they're called bridge babies, and it looks like Sam can recharge his within Bridge safe houses, might imply that they're created by Bridges, almost as if they're synthetic or created by the company. So that's quite interesting. I wonder how that's going to play into things. There's a line that mentions how covering America in tables didn't really help anything, and I wonder if that's an allusion to the way that we currently approach technology and the way that we are more connected than we've ever been, but are arguably more isolated than we've ever been as well. And I do really feel like that's going to be a core theme and a core concept that comes up a lot in this game, seeing as though it's about connection in a world where, you know, people are very isolated within these cities. It feels like that's an obvious place to go with this concept, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's where we ended up. We also saw some new characters in this trailer, such as Die Hard Man. This is my new dad, Die Hard Man. It's just amazing. We also had Mama, Fragile, and we got a name for Mads' character, which is Cliff. Now, on Twitter the other day, Kojima said that Cliff only smokes so many cigarettes in this trailer because Mads in real life smokes a lot of cigarettes, and I wish I loved anything as much as Hideo Kojima loves Mads, because their relationship is beautiful and it's so pure. It's so pure and lovely. Very interested as to what Cliff, which by the way is... why is Cliff the ridiculous name in a game where you have Die Hard Man, Dead Man, Mama, and Fragile? Why is Cliff the name that I find the weirdest? It just says so much about Kojima's names that Die Hard Man, perfect. But Cliff's a bit too normal. What's going on there? Anyway, yeah, interested to see what Cliff's character's going to be. He's obviously the main bad guy, but is he always the main bad guy? Does he have a slow descent into that role? Is it after he travels to Hades using the bridge babies? Does he become corrupted by it? Is that why he can control them? I don't know. Be interested. I think he'll be a great villain. And there's lots of conflicting forces like Troy Baker's character and, you know, the demons or whatever they refer to them as, and yeah, it looks great. There's a lot of stuff going on here which I find really interesting. Kojima's always been very good at writing narratives that have lots of conflicting forces and different entities working against and with each other. He's also got a proven track record of having really interesting socio-political narratives told by super soldier clones and, in one instance, a vampire, so I just feel like he's the only person in the world who could come up with and then successfully tell a story like this. So yeah, it's good. It's good stuff. I'd usually raise the fact that the two women in this trailer are called Mama and Fragile, but I don't need to, because Kojima has a proven track record with creating really well-rounded female characters, and if I said anything, I would be ashamed of my words and deeds. Why? Remember in Metal Gear Solid 5 where that young lass had a bomb in her vagina? Was that a thing? Hold on, was that a thing? MGS 5 bomb vagina? Yeah, that was it. It was Paz. She had a bomb in her abdomen, and then there was a second bomb in her vagina. Forgot about that. He's good. No concerns about anything. It's all fine. So it's fair to say I'm bloody excited for Death Stranding. I think that looks great. Gameplay looks very interesting and engaging. Didn't even mention the timefall nonsense that makes you age when you get caught in the rain. What's that about? Who knows? I'm sure we'll find out. Also, I don't really care if we don't find out. I love just this premise of a world, and just to spend some time within it without any kind of explanation as to why any of this is happening is completely fine. I'm totally fine with that. I just want to get my hands on this game and experience it, which is a douchey thing to say, but I do. I've been a lifelong Kojima fan. The first Metal Gear Solid was one of the first games I ever played, and I'm just super excited to see him and his very, very talented team turn their attention and focus to a completely new property. Are you excited for Death Stranding? Why don't you leave a comment below telling me what you enjoyed in this most recent trailer, if you have any theories about what the game might be and what the story might be, and if you're going to buy it, let me know. This is a new thing I'm going to do where I just talk. How was it? Was this interesting? Also leave me a comment with some feedback if you thought this was fine. Maybe I'll do more, I'm not sure. I just really wanted to talk about Death Stranding, so here we are. Please like and subscribe if this is your first time at 7 out of 10, and I will see you soon. Bye!